Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sophia Wilson, and thanks for joining us today for our Back to Basics webinar. I have my lovely colleague Sean, who will be taking you through our webinar today. And everyone should be able to see his screen at this time. And I'm just checking in. Sean, can you hear me loud and clear?
I can, Sophie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Well,
Beautiful.
thank you so much for doing this today, and I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you very much, Sophie, and thanks for the opportunity. Cool. So good morning or good afternoon, everybody. As Sophie said, my name is Sean, and I am the success team lead here at Function Points. Today, what we're going to be going through is our Back to Basics session. So essentially, what that means, folks, is we're going to be covering some basic navigation in the system. So how do you get all the way through Function Points? What are the different modules within? And what are you looking at when you get logged in? We are going to be going through some dashboard training. So how do you actually create a dashboard in your system that reflects what it is that you need to do on a daily basis? So how do we make some adjustments? How do we really customize the system to make sure it's speaking your language? And then finally, last but not least, we're going to be covering everybody's favorite topic, which is time tracking. Now, we recently released an industry report with a lot of valuable information around time tracking with agencies or a lack thereof, and some of the benefits of making sure that we're tracking time accurately. So obviously the first step in that is making sure that we know how to track time within our system. So that is what we'll be covering today. Obviously throughout the course of this, folks, if there's any questions, please feel free to throw them into the GoToMeeting. If we can't answer them directly during the webinar, we'll make sure that either myself, Sophia, or your dedicated customer success manager gets back to you with an answer as quickly as possible. All right, folks, that being said, allow me to just quickly pull up my function point system here, and we'll get started. Okay. So folks, what we're looking at here is the standard classic dashboard. Now, chances are, for the most users within your agency, even possibly yourself, when you log into Function Point, this is what you'll see. This is what's known as our classic dashboard view, and it really contains most of the information that you need to do your job on a day-to-day basis. Just kind of taking a quick tour of what this dashboard is showing us. We have our timesheets module. We have our jobs panel. Our pin notes, which is our communication within the system, and our tasks and to-dos panel. Now, I promise we are going to be touching on this dashboard here as well as a few others. But before we get into that, it's going to be a good idea just to orient ourselves to the system itself. Now, when I am logged in, I can see that I've got a black navigation bar that runs across the top of the screen. This navigation bar will likely look like this, or we might be missing a few different modules here, depending on your permission set. But generally speaking, it behaves the same right across the different modules. If we hover over any one of these areas, we'll notice that we usually will have a find, a view, and an add. Now, these seem like very basic features, and certainly the functionality does speak, or sorry, the title does speak to the functionality, but there's certainly more that can be done with these. Now, for instance, my clients list here. If I'm hovering over top of this module and I move down to view clients, what this is going to actually do is give me a quick view of the customers that I've recently been working with. Same thing with my projects, my estimates, my jobs, my tasks. We can see it's got a very similar setup for each one of these areas. Now, the benefit to this is that if you are having a fairly heavy day, or even a light day, but you've been working with one or two customers consistently, rather than you having to go back into, let's say, your jobs area and doing a job find, you can just hover over top of the module, hover over top of view, and it's going to show you the last few things that you were looking at. So it's one of those things that It might not seem like it's saving you a great deal of time immediately, but obviously compounded over the entire year, just being able to quickly get back to the work that you were recently working on, that'll certainly save you a lot of time. Now, the next piece that I do want to touch on with this navigation is this find routine. Now, a lot of people will look at the system and say, well, yeah, you can find something. It's a fairly standard feature. And yes, it absolutely is a standard feature. However, there's a lot of power in these find pieces. Let's say, for instance, that I am looking for tasks. Like, that's probably a great example for us. I want to know all the tasks that are not only on my plate, on my dashboard here, but maybe I want to see all the tasks that are assigned to me that, are possibly in a draft status. Maybe I'm just looking to be very proactive with my work. I can use this find routine here. I can use any one of these areas to filter. In this case, what I'm going to do is choose myself. So any task that's assigned to me. And I actually specifically want to see tasks that are going to be due only in the month of May. I'm not too concerned about things in June. I just want to see what's happening for the month of May. So I'm going to go ahead and type in May 1 to start off my due date search. I'm going to type in ... That's going to set a range for me. And I'm going to close this off with May 30. I'm going to click outside the box, and that's going to save that range for me. And then if I hit Find Tasks, this gives me a filtered list. So again, folks, a little bit more of an advanced functionality there, but the find routine, you can certainly use it just to pull a massive list of everything that's in the system. But by using those filters, by navigating a little bit deeper, you can pull yourself a very powerful and a very targeted, essentially a report based on the information in any one of these modules. Now, not trying to steal the name of the webinar here, but again, kind of going back to the basics. One thing that people will oftentimes forget about the system is that there is a very quick way to navigate back to that starting point. On each of your systems, chances are you've got a company logo sitting someplace up here. You can see my FP logo sort of hidden down here, just because of my screen size. However, if you just click in this top left area, that's always going to take you back to your starting point. So if you are new to Function Point and you're fairly deep into a couple of the modules, just by clicking on that top left-hand side, that's going to take you back to something that's a little bit more familiar, which in this case will be your dashboard. Now, a couple other pieces before we jump into dashboard setup. I'm still on the navigation piece. Another nice feature of this sort of main screen and throughout the system is this quick search. Now, let's say that we don't know the company that, or sorry, we don't know the job number that we're working on, but we do know the company. What I can do is quickly type up here in the quick search. Let's go with, let's say North Shore. I can use that as my search parameter, and then I can use this within piece to again search through any of these modules. So I want to see all jobs for North Shore. I'm going to hit that quick search, typing in North Shore within jobs. And I can see that this is going to show me all the jobs in the system right now for North Shore Auto Group. So again, a great way to get around as long as we have some recollection of something with that job. So either the company name, possibly a keyword in the job title. We can use that quick search to really get to what we're looking for in a fast manner. Now, with these webinars, with the Back to Basics session, any of the webinars that we do, there's obviously a lot of information that gets put out there. If we don't remember what we've been told, another nice feature of the basic navigation is this little eye icon. If we hover over top of this, we can actually click into a piece called Help Center. And this is going to pull up essentially a library of help articles as well as other features that will help us get around. So let's say I'm a little bit unsure about job searches or searching in general. I can just type in a keyword like search, and this will take me through to a bunch of articles that will deal with searching within the function point system. So again, that can be accessed, folks, just by using this eye icon and moving into the Help Center. Now again, to quickly get back to my main dashboard, I'm going to use my function point logo on the top left-hand side. Again, in your case, it'll likely be your agency logo. Just click onto that, and I'm back to my main dashboard. All right, folks. Now, before I move on to dashboards, I'm just going to quickly check in with Soph here. Soph, has there been any questions in the chat?
Hi, Sean. Thanks for checking in. You know what? You've been doing a really great, thorough job. I think everyone is sitting pretty well right now. Thanks for checking in, though.
No problem. Hopefully, everybody is still awake and I'm not boring them with my monotone voice. All right, folks. So that is the basic navigation. Let's move on to dashboards. So again, as we started off in the webinar, we're talking about this classic dashboard view here. And again, for the majority of people logging into Function Point, this is a perfect window into what they need to do. They can log in, they can check their dashboard, they can see what they have on their plate today. They can see any communication that they've been tagged in throughout the system. They can see all jobs in the system, or they can specifically limit jobs here by using this My piece and then filtering by My Jobs, just to make sure this list is a little bit cleaner, and they can track their time. Now, the people we generally see using this are, people working on the production floor, for lack of a better term. So the people that are, creative, not that everyone's not creative, but the people that are working in that creative capacity within the agency. People that are, possibly acting as consultants, really any person that is in the system that has tasks assigned to them and needs to be tracking time, this is really a perfect view. Now, if there are perhaps other things that we need to see or that we want to see, what we can do is actually start customizing these dashboards. Now we can do that just by hovering over top of this little speedometer icon here, and we can click our Customize Dashboards piece. So I'm going to go ahead and actually create one right now for us. Now, this takes me through to a 1, 2, 3, 4 setup. So let me see if I can pull this down a little bit. And essentially what I'm doing here is clicking this plus new dashboard logo, which is going to queue the system up to start creating a new dashboard for me. Now the name I'm going to give it is going to be Sean's Webinar Dashboard. Now I've got the ability here to choose from templates in the system. So if I am just kind of wanting to see what the system has to offer, I can pick any one of these. And what that's going to do is it's going to choose a layout for me, and it's going to pre-populate that layout with different content for the different tiles. Now, if I'm feeling super creative and I just want to create something brand new for myself, I don't need to choose one of these templates. What I can do is immediately move to part 3 here, and I can choose how I want my dashboard to look. Now we can see if I scroll all the way over to the left, we've got a very, very basic block here, just a single page. And it varies in complexity as we move across the screen towards the right. So all the way from the single piece to the 6-pack, as we like to call it. We can see that choosing these different layouts here is going to affect what we can populate those different tiles with. Now, what I would recommend, depending on the complexity of your job and depending on what you need to see, I would always recommend that we have a dashboard that at least has this large piece either going down the left side or the right side. There is a reason for that. I guess you could do it in the middle too if you really wanted to. But that large piece there accommodates the full timesheet panel. Now, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, timesheet is, or time tracking in general is something that's incredibly important. So we want to make sure that whatever dashboard we're using, we do want to make sure that we have that dashboard or that timesheet piece on there, or at least we have access to a dashboard that does have timesheets within it. It's just something that helps us. If it's there in front of us, hopefully we'll remember to track time throughout the course of the day. So I'm going to make sure I choose my timesheet piece here. And then I notice that I've got 4 panels that I can populate. Now, I'm going to choose alerts because I want to see my in-system alerts sort of right in front of my face when I'm on my dashboard. For my second panel, I'm going to go ahead and choose pin notes because I want to see my communication. For my third panel here, I think I'm actually going to take a look at my recently viewed items because I know that I'm moving back and forth between quite a few jobs. I want to make sure that I've got the ability to see those quickly. And in my last piece, I'm going to choose a very small task and to-dos area. Now, once I have those selected, what I'm going to do is click onto Save and Continue or Save and Close. And this is going to pop me back to my default view. Now, I promise your new dashboard is here. You just have to select it. So if you move up and pop over top of the speedometer icon, you'll now see that you have access to your new dashboard. So if I go ahead and select that, now I can see that this dashboard reflects what I just set up. Now, folks, part of what we do on the success team is provide advice around best practices, and this always does come up. The question will be, well, should I really have my staff changing these dashboards around? What's the implication there? Number one, if a staff member changes their own dashboard, it's not going to affect everybody else in the system. It is specific to that staff member that's logging in. Number two, you all know working in agencies that, throughout the course of the day, you are wearing many, many different hats. This whole dashboard feature, the ability to customize them, that's reflecting those different hats. So if you are sort of working in a blended agency, maybe you're working in a leadership role, but you still have some creative to do. Maybe first thing in the morning, you're hovering over top of your dashboard area, and your initial dashboard view is this business intelligence piece. So you're looking at visual panels based on how the agency is doing. Now that's your morning. As soon as you get into the afternoon, you're doing more creative work. You're able to pop back up to this area and then switch back to your classic view. So I would say people that are very successful within the system, they will generally have 2 or 3 dashboards set up for themselves that reflect what they're doing throughout the course of the day. So, feel free to experiment with the dashboard feature yourself. Feel free to show your staff members. Again, it's not going to have any further implications in the system other than making their lives a little bit easier and giving them quick access to the information they need. All right, so just checking in. Do we have any questions from the group?
Hey, Sean. Yeah, thanks for checking in. Again, everyone's being pretty quiet today. I think we're good over on this side of things. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic, Soph. All right, folks, we'll just trucking right along here. So far, we have covered basic navigation in the system. We've covered how to use different dashboards and why we might choose to do so. Really, the last piece today, folks, is on time tracking. And I will try not to harp on too much about this, but it is something I'm fairly passionate about. Again, referencing that agency reports or the industry report that we've just put out there. One thing we've noticed is that there's a lot of agencies out there that will, there's no nice way to put this, people will overservice their clients. The easiest way to make sure that we're not doing that is to make sure that we're tracking time. Yeah, so.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. You kind of cut out for a second there. Would you mind just repeating that last sentence?
Yeah, of course. No problem, folks. Yep. What I was saying is that with the agency reports, the industry reports, sorry, that we've just put out, one thing that's, really came to light was that there's a lot of agencies out there. I think it's close to 50% that report that they're over servicing their customers. So, they might quote 10 hours to create a piece of collateral. At the end of the day, we end up putting in 20 hours. Now, that's one of those things where obviously if we're over servicing continuously, we're going to start losing money at some point. That's really eating into our profitability. Now, the best way to combat that is to make sure that we're as accurate as possible with our time tracking. So that being said, we want to make sure that time tracking is done as easily in the system as possible. So I'm going to show you guys a few different methods that we can actually track time. Now, this might vary from agency to agency, depending on what your internal processes are, but we'll start with the very basics here. So let's say that I'm working on a piece, a piece of collateral throughout the course of the morning. I don't know the job number, but I do know the customer that I was working with. What I can do is move over to my timesheets panel, and I can actually just do a partial search here in the actual jobs piece on that timesheets panel. So again, I'm pretty sure it was North Shore Auto Group that I was working with. So I'm going to make sure I throw in North Shore. I'm going to click outside the box, and that's going to give me a pared down search. So, okay, it was the signage piece that I was working on. So I'm going to make sure I select that. Now I'm asking myself, well, what did I actually do? I know what I did this morning, but in the system, where should I have tracked that time? Once I've got the job chosen here, I can easily move down and take a look at my services. So I was doing a bit of sketching on a new piece. So I can actually select sketching and roughs from my service. If I had a task associated with that, which we'll get into in a second, I'd be able to hit this drop down here, and as long as that task was assigned to me and I had marked it as in progress, that task piece would show up here. I can plug in my time, so I know I spent about 2 hours working on sketching and roughs this morning, and I can throw in a description. I just click submit, and now my time has been tracked to that job. Now, folks, a nice thing, again, about having this timesheet piece on your dashboard consistently is that as you track time throughout the course of the day, you're going to see your time start tallying up. So if timesheets are kind of a bit of a hassle with your team, if it's difficult to get people into it, oftentimes one of the reasons is because people don't know either when to enter their time, or they're not sure throughout the course of the day how much time they actually put in. So there's that concern about making mistakes when they're entering that time. Having this panel up is going to give you that running tally. And it's a really easy way for staff members to feel confident about the time that they're putting in, because they are going to quickly see, okay, well, it's 4 o'clock. I've only got 2 hours logged. Chances are, sorry about that. Chances are I need to go back and log some further time throughout the day. All right, folks, so that's method 1 of tracking your time. Method 2 can actually be accomplished from either this jobs panel here, or if you're in an agency that's using tasks, then we can use this area here. Now we'll notice on each of these jobs, there's a little timesheet icon here. If you are to click this timesheet icon, what it's going to do is start populating your timesheet for you. So if we're going through the jobs panel, if I click the timesheet, it's just going to pull the job up. I still have to select my service. And if I had a task, I'd be selecting that. But I'd be logging my time the exact same way. And again, I can see that that piece has now logged under my timesheet panel. Now, if we are using tasks and to-dos in the system, which definitely is the best practice, this really gives you granular control over what's being pushed out to your staff members, we'd be using this tasks and to-dos panel. So if I move down this list here, I can see that there's 2 tasks that I'm currently working on, and they're both set to in progress. Unfortunately, they're overdue right now, but I'll deal with that in a second. Let's say that I just started working on this copywriting and editing piece. It's on my task and to-dos list. I know there's 18 hours estimated for that task, and I haven't done anything yet. So maybe I spent the morning working on this copywriting piece. What I'm going to do is move my task to in progress, which is letting my team lead know that I've actually started work on this. Again, I'm moving over and clicking this little timesheet icon. And as soon as I click that, what I can see is that most of this timesheet has already been populated for me. The job's been chosen, the correct service has been chosen, even the task has been chosen. So if we're talking good, better, best, this timesheet panel, good way to track your time. The job area, again, it's a good way to track your time. If we're looking at the best case scenario, using this task and to-dos area, if we want to make sure that we're as accurate as possible, this is really the way to go, because this is going to fill the majority of that sheet in for us. It's going to eliminate that room for error for tracking time to the wrong service or the wrong job. And this is feeding into the project management part of the system. So if we can get in the habit of using this to track our time, we get some really accurate information in terms of the time that we're recording. And there we go. Now I've got 4 hours. Now, I just mentioned that this is a best practice here, and it certainly is, but we also have to deal with reality. It's difficult to get people into the system sometimes in terms of tracking their time. If it's not something that people are used to, it can be a big ask and it can be a steep learning curve getting people into that habit. So what we'll often see agencies doing as they're transitioning into the system is they will use this weekly view to track their time. So again, accessing from the panel here, if I hit weekly view, this is going to pull up a grid for me, which will allow me just to bulk enter my time. So if it's the end of the week, I hate saying this, folks, because it's definitely not a best practice, but end of the week, I haven't done my timesheets yet. If I use this task and to-dos, or sorry, the weekly timesheet view, this will pull up the jobs that I have track time to. If I haven't tracked time, I can still do a search for the job. Select my service. And then I can enter my time across the week. So this does get the information into the system for you. Again, this is great if you're just transitioning into the system. It's still best if we can kind of get into the habit of doing our timesheets daily through this panel here, or through this tasks and to-dos piece. But at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we've got time in the system. So you're going to do whatever works best for you with your agency. If I could guide you, if I had my wish, I could guide you towards this. But if we need to use the weekly view, totally fine. Let's just make sure we get those timesheets in there. Now, one last piece that I wanted to cover, not necessarily related to timesheets here, but it's a new feature that we have in the system, and this does come up quite continuously. If we're looking at our task list here, and we notice that there's lots of overdue tasks that haven't been completed yet, we can certainly just use the status piece to complete these tasks. So this one here, for instance, was due on April 6th. We had 17 hours estimated. I've actually put my 15.5 hours in. I know I'm done this. What I want to make sure that I'm doing is dropping this into that completed status. A, it's clearing the task list for me, so it's making my work a little bit more manageable. B, this is really helping out who we might have acting as a traffic manager or as a project manager, because this is clearing the resourcing for them. So by completing these tasks, by actually moving into that status, this is letting them know that I'm actually done. And this is letting them know that I've got the ability to work on something else. Now, if we're just getting used to the system, we might see that there's quite a few tasks that are overdue, either because we've forgotten to complete them, or possibly we need to move the dates out.
Hey,
if we want
Sean,
to do that,
sorry to
yeah, Soph.
Sorry to interrupt again. You just
No
kind of
worries.
cut out again for a little chunk of time. So if you don't mind just repeating that, I know it's kind of important, so I want to make sure everyone hears it.
Yeah, of course, Soph. Did you catch the dropping the status? Or should I just restart from there?
Let's actually restart from there because we actually had John ask a really great question about the in progress status, and so I just want to make sure that that's really clear for everyone.
Of course. Thanks, Soph. So folks, just kind of getting back to the status here. With these tasks, obviously, if we want to track time, we're moving it from that assigned status to in progress, which is telling people that we actually have started working on this piece, and it's allowing us to track our time to it. Now, when we're done with the job, when we're actually finished, it's very, very important that we're taking this status piece and we're moving it to completed. Now, there's a couple reasons why we want to make sure that it's in that completed status. Number one, it's making sure that our task and to-dos panel is nice and clean. Nobody wants to be at work and have a list of 30 or 40 things that are just glaring on their screen. People like to work clean. So by making sure that we complete it, it's clearing that list for us. The other benefit, though, is that this is helping out whoever is acting as the traffic manager or the project manager within the agency. This is letting them know that, hey, I'm actually done this piece of work. I'm finished. I have the room, I have the ability to work on something else. So this is influencing our resourcing, and it's also making sure that we're nice and clean in terms of our task list. Now, with that point, again, when people are just kind of getting used to the system, they might have quite a few tasks that are overdue, and that might be just because they haven't actually completed them yet. They haven't marked them as complete. So a really quick way to get that done is if we actually move up to our tasks module here, we move into our tasks and to-dos panel. I can actually pull up a list by choosing myself. I can pull my open and overdue tasks. So let's say I happen to have 15 or so of these on here. I've got the ability to use this editable list view. And what that's going to allow me to do is move right through this list and then mark these tasks as complete all in one place, all from a large list. So we might just do it for ourselves. If I was acting kind of more as the traffic manager, I might select everybody. And this is a really quick way for me to make sure that my tasks are cleaned up in the system. And again, folks, that can be accessed just by using our tasks and to-dos list and then hitting editable list view. All right, folks, back to my dashboard, which again, I'm gonna hit just by using this top left corner. And folks, that is it for time tracking. Soph, how are we doing? Any other questions here?
Hey, Sean. You know what? No questions that's come through, but something that I thought I might just like to point out in regards to that task status is that you'll notice on the timesheets tile how there's that task drop down. If you haven't changed a task into a status of in progress, the task won't actually appear for you to choose there. So just, in those weird workflows where someone maybe like they just knew the job number, so they typed it in and then they put in the service, but you actually want them tracking directly to the task, just making sure that that's something you kind of check if maybe they haven't changed that status, if it's not appearing. It's just kind of a funny little thing that's popped up a couple times with a couple other customers I've talked to. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention that.
So that is a fantastic point. That probably accounts for a good 15% of the questions that we have come into the team. Yes, we just have to make sure that that status is set to in progress. If that's there, our tasks will populate. If it's just assigned, nothing's going to show up here on that task panel if we're trying to track that time. Sophie, thank you so much.
Yeah, and then of course that's the exact same on that timesheet weekly view as well. So yes. I know that that is a very used screen by probably 90% of our timesheet, our time tracking customers. So it's a good thing to point out.
For sure.
Okay, but yeah, other than that, everyone is being pretty quiet.
Awesome.
anyone, if there are any follow-up questions, you come up with something tonight while you're having your glass of wine or something, feel free to email success@functionpoint.com. We will definitely be able to assist you.
Perfect. Thanks, Sophie. Yeah, so I mean, if there's no further questions right now, just remember, folks, we're certainly available within the team to answer any sort of questions that you guys have. Again, in the system, you do have that eye icon. So again, that's a great place to start off if you have any sort of questions. But obviously, always feel free to email us. Within that eye icon, there are skill development pieces, there's tools and resources, even some product input. So certainly just use that module, but always feel free to reach out to us. And folks, in terms of our next session, this is the last webinar in this series. So it's been an absolute pleasure getting to work with you and the customers throughout this. I believe we have our next series starting sometime in July. Is that correct, Soph?
Yes, that is. That's actually really exciting. So everyone kind of on right now, I'm sort of working on a new kind of idea with our webinars. So normally they've been pretty product-based and best practices from myself, just from working with our customers for quite a number of years. But I'm really hoping you're actually going to be able to hear directly from some of our top users here at Function Point. So that we are aiming to start in the beginning of July or August. So keep your ears open, and I hope everyone joins us. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you so much, Soph. And thank you for co-hosting today. Really appreciate it. And FP community, keep those questions coming, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much, everybody.